Hello ladies and gentlemen, if you are new here, kindly subscribe the channel, for further fruitful videos. The forbidden truth in a forgotten library, hidden beneath the ruins of an ancient city, Elias stumbled upon a book wrapped in black leather. Its title, The Primordial Veil, was etched in gold, its pages filled with a language older than the stars. As he turned the brittle pages, his breath caught. The book spoke of an entity before God, a nameless force that pulsed in the abyss before time began. It whispered of a void-born intelligence, neither light nor darkness, that wove the first strands of existence long before heaven, earth, or even the concept of divinity. A shadow moved in the corner. Elias felt an icy grip on his soul. Some knowledge, he realized, was never meant to be known. Discovery of a forbidden book. Elias had always been drawn to the unknown, to secrets buried in the forgotten corners of history. His search for lost knowledge led him to the ruins of a city long abandoned, a place where time itself seemed to have stopped. The city was silent, its streets filled with dust, and its once grand buildings crumbled under the weight of centuries. No one came here anymore, no one dared. Yet, Elias felt a pull, a whisper in his mind, urging him forward. He wandered through the ruins for days, exploring every alley, every broken temple, every shattered monument, but nothing he found seemed out of the ordinary, just stones and shadows. That is, until he stumbled upon a hidden staircase, concealed beneath a collapsed wall in what once had been a library. The steps, narrow and steep, descended deep into the earth. The air grew colder as he descended, the light fading with each step. At the bottom, Elias found a small chamber. It was dark, except for a faint glow coming from a single object in the center of the room. There, resting on a stone pedestal, was a book. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. The cover was made of thick, black leather, worn and cracked from age. Strange symbols were etched into the leather, glowing faintly in the dim light. Elias approached the book with caution. His heart raced, his breath shallow. There was something about it, something that both terrified and fascinated him. He reached out, his fingers trembling, and touched the cover. A jolt of energy shot through him, like an electric shock, but he did not pull away. Instead, he opened the book. The pages were brittle, yellowed with time. The ink, dark and bold, was written in a language Elias did not recognize, yet somehow, he understood. It was as if the words were being whispered into his mind, bypassing all barriers of language. The more he read, the more the world around him seemed to fade away, until there was only the book and the secrets it held. The book was called The Primordial Veil, and it spoke of things long forgotten, things buried in the deepest recesses of time. It spoke of an era before the creation of the universe, before light, before darkness, an era when nothing existed except a nameless, shapeless force, a force that existed before God. Elias's hands shook as he turned the pages. He felt the weight of the knowledge pressing down on him, suffocating him. This was not just a book. This was a doorway to something much older, much darker, than anything he had ever imagined. The air in the chamber grew heavy, thick with an oppressive presence. Elias felt as if the walls were closing in, the shadows growing longer, reaching out toward him. He knew, deep down, that this book was not meant to be found. It was hidden here for a reason, forgotten by time, buried in the darkness to keep its secrets from the world. Yet, here it was, in his hands, and he could not stop reading. Pre-God entity. The book, The Primordial Veil, whispered of an entity older than time itself. It spoke of something that existed before the universe, before light, before God. This being had no name, no form, no beginning, and no end. It was a presence in the void, a consciousness without shape, drifting in an eternal sea of nothingness. There was no space, no matter, no stars, no planets. There was only the void and it. This entity, though formless, was powerful beyond comprehension. It did not create the universe out of a desire for life or light. It acted out of necessity. The void was restless, filled with an unbearable tension, a chaotic force that wanted to take shape, to manifest itself. The entity, ancient and alone, was the catalyst for that transformation. In the endless blackness of the void, this primordial force stirred, thinking without thought, dreaming without dreams. Its mind expanded across the empty, formless vastness, touching every corner of the void. And then, in a moment beyond understanding, it began to weave the first threads of existence. These threads were not of light or matter, but of pure potential. They were the foundation, the raw energy from which all things would one day emerge. The book revealed that this entity did not create the universe as a god might create. It did not speak worlds into being or shape them with its hands. Instead, it allowed the first sparks of creation to emerge from the tension of the void, as if birthing reality itself from its own essence. The universe was a consequence of its presence, not an intentional act of will. From its formless being, the first dimensions unfolded, time began to tick, and space expanded. But this entity was not benevolent. It did not watch over its creation with care or love. It was indifferent, cold, and distant. The universe, the stars, the galaxies, and everything within them were mere byproducts of its existence. The entity remained in the void, untouched by the worlds that formed, unconcerned by the lives that would one day populate the universe. Yet, the book hinted at a darker truth. This pre-God entity was not content to remain distant forever. It watched, silently, from the abyss, waiting for something. What that was, the book did not reveal, but it was clear that the entity had plans. It was still out there, lurking in the shadows of creation, its influence stretching across the cosmos like invisible tendrils. Though it did not rule the universe like a god, its presence was felt in every corner of existence. The book warned that this entity was not done with creation. Its power, though dormant, still pulsed beneath the surface of reality. It was the foundation of everything, the source of all things, and one day, it might rise again. The stars themselves, the book hinted, were merely echoes of its thoughts, flickering lights in the darkness of its eternal mind. Elias trembled as he read, realizing the universe he knew was but a fragile veil, stretched thin over the infinite void. Behind that veil, this entity waited, patient and eternal, older than God, older than time, waiting to stir once more. Ancient knowledge. The book, the Primordial Veil, contained knowledge that had been lost for eons. It was not knowledge of gods or men, nor of stars or planets. This knowledge predated all of that. It was ancient, older than any civilization, older than time itself. The pages revealed secrets that had never been spoken aloud, truths that no human mind was meant to comprehend. Elias felt his heart race as he read. The words on the page were written in a language that no living person had ever known, yet they were clear to him. Each symbol glowed faintly, as if alive with some primal energy. The book spoke of the very fabric of existence, the building blocks of reality itself. This was not just history or myth. This was the foundation of all things, of the secret laws that governed the universe, laws that even gods could not defy. The knowledge was dangerous, heavy, like a burden that grew with every page. It revealed the mechanics of creation, how the universe had been woven together from the tension of the void. It explained how time, space, and matter were all intertwined, fragile threads in the vast cosmic web. Everything, it said, was connected, from the smallest atom to the largest galaxy. But this connection was not as humans had imagined. It was not harmonious or balanced. It was chaotic, teetering on the edge of collapse at all times. Elias learned that the universe was never meant to last. It was not created to endure but to unravel, to collapse back into the void from which it came. This knowledge was terrifying. The stars, the planets, even life itself, all of it was temporary, a brief flicker in an endless sea of nothingness. The book described the process in excruciating detail, how one day, the tension that held the universe together would snap, and everything would dissolve into darkness. Yet, there was more. The book spoke of beings that had once known this knowledge, beings older than the oldest stars. They had understood the secrets of creation and had used this understanding to manipulate reality itself. They were not gods, but something far older and more powerful. They had existed in the early days of the universe, before the first suns had ignited, before time had truly begun to flow. These beings had shaped the cosmos, bending it to their will, but they had vanished long ago, leaving behind only traces of their influence. The knowledge in the book had been theirs, passed down through countless ages, hidden from those who were unworthy to wield it. Elias realized that this was no ordinary book. It was a relic, a fragment of a forgotten age, when the universe was still young, and the laws of reality were not yet fixed. The beings who had written this knowledge were gone, but their power, their influence, remained. Elias felt the weight of it, pressing on his mind. This knowledge could change everything. It was dangerous, forbidden, meant to be forgotten. Yet here it was, in his hands, calling to him, tempting him. He knew that if he fully understood it, he could bend the universe to his will. But he also knew that this knowledge came with a price. The more he read, the more he felt the pull of the void, the dark, formless presence that lurked beyond the edges of reality. This ancient knowledge was a gateway, a door to something far greater, far more terrifying, than anything Elias had ever imagined. And now that the door was open, there was no turning back. Danger of forbidden knowledge. The weight of the book pressed on Elias like an invisible hand, tightening around his mind. He had unlocked something that should have stayed hidden. The deeper he read, the more he realized the danger that came with the forbidden knowledge within the Primordial Veil. This was not just ancient wisdom or forgotten history. This was something far darker, something that carried a curse. The knowledge was alive. It reached into him, twisting his thoughts, altering the way he saw the world. At first, it was subtle, a whisper in the back of his mind, a faint sense of unease. But as he delved deeper into the secrets on the brittle pages, the feeling grew stronger, more insistent. It felt as though the book was pulling him into a vast abyss, a place where no light could ever reach. Elias had always craved knowledge, always searched for answers to the universe's most profound mysteries. But this knowledge was different. It wasn't meant to be understood by mortal minds. As he continued reading, he felt something change inside him. His thoughts, once clear, became clouded with dark images, visions of the void, of a universe collapsing, of an ancient, formless entity waiting in the shadows. The book warned of the consequences of knowing too much. It spoke of others who had found this knowledge, others who had sought the same forbidden truths Elias now uncovered. They had been consumed by it. Their minds had been torn apart, unable to bear the weight of what they had learned. They had become hollow, shells of their former selves, trapped in a madness that no one could cure. The knowledge had ruined them, erased their identities, and left them as mere fragments of who they once were. Elias knew he was walking the same path. He could feel it. The words on the page seemed to pulse, drawing him in, pulling him closer to the edge of sanity. He tried to pull away, to close the book, but he couldn't. His hand shook, but he kept turning the pages, driven by a force he couldn't resist. The book warned that once you had touched this knowledge, there was no escape. It had a way of burrowing into your soul, leaving a mark that could never be erased. Even if Elias walked away now, even if he burned the book and never spoke of it again, the knowledge would remain. It would haunt him, whisper to him, twist his dreams into nightmares. The danger was not just in what the knowledge revealed, it was in the way it consumed those who sought it. The more you knew, the more it demanded. It was like a fire that could never be satisfied, a hunger that grew with each new revelation. Elias realized that he was not just uncovering ancient truths. He was feeding something dark, something that had been waiting in the depths of the book, waiting for someone like him to open the door. And now that door was open, and there was no turning back. The book had him, and no matter how hard he fought, the knowledge would claim him, just as it had claimed countless others before him. The final revelation. Elias trembled, his breath shallow, his mind unraveling under the weight of the knowledge he had absorbed. The book had not just revealed secrets, it had changed him. He could feel it, like an infection spreading through his thoughts, warping his understanding of reality. The universe was not what he had believed. It was fragile, temporary, a thin veil stretched over something far older, far darker. He wanted to stop reading, to turn away, to forget, but it was too late. The knowledge was inside him now, whispering, twisting, reshaping his mind. He understood now why this book had been buried, why it had been hidden beneath the ruins of a forgotten city. It was never meant to be found, never meant to be read. A shadow moved in the corner of the chamber. The air grew heavy, thick with something unseen, something watching. Elias felt its presence, ancient and patient, waiting just beyond the fabric of existence. The entity from before time, the force that had woven the first strands of reality, had noticed him. And now, it would never let him go. His hands trembled as he tried to close the book, But the pages resisted, fluttering open on their own, revealing symbols that pulsed with a dark energy. His heartbeat slowed, the whispers in his mind grew louder, no longer a warning, but a summons. Elias understood the final truth. This knowledge had never been hidden to protect the world. It had been hidden to protect him, to shield him from the thing that lurked beyond creation, the thing that had waited for someone foolish enough to seek its truth. He had not discovered the book. It had found him. And now, the door was open. With a final breath, Elias felt himself slipping away, his thoughts unraveling, his soul dissolving into the abyss. The book's pages turned on their own, the ink shifting, changing. The whispers became a chorus, welcoming him into the void. The ruins remained silent. The book sat on its pedestal, waiting for the next seeker.